Hello, everybody. I'm Dylan.
I'm John.
And I'm Tegan. Today, we will be talking about the 1920s prohibition of alcohol in the United States. To start us off, Dylan will be giving us some information on the time period leading into prohibition.
So today I will be taking us all the way back to 1850 and the start of pre-prohibition. In 1851, Maine was one of the first probable states that started to ban the manufacturing of alcohol. This then led to 13 more states in the US taking the role to ban the manufacturing of alcohol between the years of 1851 and 1855. During the 40 to 70 year span, there were companies called the National Protective Association and the United States Brewers Association.
Do you have any quote material to back up that point?
Yes, I do. I will be sharing a quote from Elaine Pullman's, which reads, both the NPA and the USBA increased their membership fees and spent the extra funds for extensive lobbying campaigns attempting to counterwave pushing towards more prohibition. Colvin notes that the NPA spent $31,000 manipulating newspapers in Rhode Island during the state's 1889 prohibition repeal campaign. Additionally, the NPA paid $6,000 to General C.R. Brayton, a major Republican politician, to push for repeal. In Pennsylvania, the NPA raised $200,000 from the fees paid by brewers, hotels, retail shops, barrel makers, and other connected to alcohol markets, and used the funds to help defeat the state constitutional amendment campaign of 1889. To wrap things up, this was just the start of prohibition and a look into the possible effects of trying to fight against it.
Thank you, Dylan, for the introduction into pre-prohibition times and how the United States made its way into prohibition. John, do you have anything to add to his points?
Yeah, I want to shift gears into prohibition times and the negative effects of the ban on alcohol. I'll be looking at a letter written by Frank A.K. Boland, the director of the American Hotel Association, to Senator Wesley Jones regarding the effects of the prohibition on the association and its members. The main argument of the association was the prohibition would have an absolutely disastrous effect on the economy. The most affected areas would have been finance, real estate, and industry. The letter also highlights the fact that U.S. government would lose hundreds of millions in revenue and confiscate millions in property without reimbursement. This was due to a majority of the hotel owners losing their companies due to the prohibition. This is a great example of the negative effect on the economy and social norms because of the prohibition.
Well, if businesses disagreed with prohibition, who are the main people who supported it then?
From my research, I found that the main supporters of prohibition were women, progressives, and Protestants.
Well, thank you, John. That was a great summary of the negative aspects of prohibition and why some people liked it and others didn't. Lastly, I'll be hitting on the positive effects of prohibition. And I guess I'll just start with prohibition came at a time when alcohol was a huge social issue in the United States. And there were two main ways alcohol was killing Americans. You had the actual disease side and the poor decision making, which was a pretty obvious consequence of alcohol consumption.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Alcohol can inhabit the senses.
To show the negative effect of decision making, I have a quote from well-known economics professors Mark Law and Mindy Marks. The evidence accumulated suggests that early prohibition laws did indeed reduce mortality rates due to alcohol-related causes. Importantly, when we aggregate mortality outcomes into two summary indices, prohibition had the general effect of reducing alcohol-related mortality rates.
So what does this mean, Tegan?
Basically, they found there's a direct correlation between alcohol and the negative health effects. We can see this through the disease where some saw a decrease during the prohibition. A few of these diseases were deaths due to alcoholism, cirrhosis, other liver diseases, circulatory disease, ulcers, disease of the stomach, peritonitis, infant mortality, suicides, accidents, homicides, and syphilis. The overall findings point to alcohol being bad for everyone's health and prohibition offering a better future for the mental and physical health of Americans at the time.
So, John and Tegan, how would you summarize our conversation today?
I would say we saw a definite time period where prohibition was looming, and it was only a matter of time before nationwide prohibition was implemented. It was also evident that many people disagreed with prohibition.
I would have to agree with you that many people disagreed with prohibition. Even when I was looking for images to add to our slides, I couldn't find many positive ones. I think it really came down to prohibition being a healthy thing, but Americans feeling like they were losing their economic and social freedoms. That is why prohibition didn't last. Well, that will conclude our talk on the 1920s prohibition. Thank you all for listening.